Hey there, powerful soul. Welcome to the replay of this conversation on softening into presence. If you are watching this from Instagram and you would prefer to watch this on a platform where you can have more control over the speed or listen in a way that is more convenient for you, then you can let me know in the comments and I will provide you with a link where you can go to another platform to listen, if that is your preference. And if you're tuning in replay and you want to let me know that you're here for the replay, let me know that. I would appreciate it. Let's begin. So this conversation around the power of softening into presence has been stewing and marinating within me for about a week or so of really sitting in what it means to be present and then to soften in that presence. And I don't know about you, but I have found that there is much more ease in this modern era to be distracted. And those distractions can cause you to unconsciously stiffen, harden, go into these unconscious protective defense mechanisms to feel safe. And we don't realize in those moments what is happening on a neurological level, what's happening on a spiritual level, what's happening on an energetic level, what's happening on a biological level, especially as feminine beings. And that intensity that we are carrying in our vessels turns into this hardness that gets calcified over our hearts. And before we know it, we could be showing up in our life, in our relationships, in our leadership in ways that are not truly aligned, that are not truly congruent with the outcomes that we say that we desire. And so say you are desiring to feel fully you inside of your relationship or feel fully you in your life even. And you're not feeling rested and relaxed and you're feeling stressed or you're feeling overwhelmed or you're feeling as if you have a lot on your to-do list. The concept of softening into presence can feel no way. I don't have time for that. When we're looking at softening into presence inside of your relationship, where you may have gotten yourself into the habit of mothering your beloved, you may have gotten yourself into the habit of trying to fix the relationship or trying to make your beloved do what you want them to do so that you are experiencing what you desire, which is deeper intimacy, more closeness, more connection, romance, pleasure. Inside of your leadership, you may find that you are trying to force yourself to create content to attract your ideal clients if you are an online entrepreneur like myself. Or you may find yourself trying to force the ideas to deliver inside of the work that you do to create more impact or create more visibility. And when we are doing this force energy, this control energy, this energy of I have to make things happen, or this energy even of I don't have time to take a pause for the cause and rest and relax and soften, then the consequence of the other side of that is often what we do not want. I love pausing for breaths because I feel it's a modeling in real time of softening into presence, where I'm not trying to force what wants to come through. I'm not trying to make a message happen. I'm not trying to make whatever wants to come out. I just soften and I trust. And as I have been going deeper into my own feminine embodiment, going deeper into my own understanding of the power of presence and then softening into that presence, I have noticed how so much of our unconscious shadow parts and all the behaviors and the coping mechanisms that we've learned to deal with life, love, and leadership start to surface. And I have been examining those parts with curiosity. I have been looking at these versions of myself that were sometimes unconsciously running the show, and really starting to extend compassion towards those parts of myself that didn't feel safe to be all of me, or didn't feel safe to be fully seen, or didn't feel safe to receive. And I have been deepening into this concept that I'm going to start bringing forward into my work. And it's pretty exciting, this concept around royalty. And before I even share the name of specifically what's been coming through, I want to talk about being a royal receiver. Because I find in this modern masculinized era, many feminine beings have forgotten the power that we innately carry within ourselves to just be a royal receiver. And we have gotten so conditioned in this masculinized modern era that we have to force, that we have to push, that we have to prove, that we have to protect, that we have to perform, that we have to produce to make things happen, or to get what we want, or to manifest our dreams. There's been a lot of distortions that have been put out there. There's been even femininity teachings that have conditioned many modern spiritual women and feminine being women to try harder to be in your feminine. And when we are talking about concepts such as softening into presence, being a royal receiver, being more deeply embodied as a feminine being, it's not about trying harder. It's not about doing more. It's actually about doing less. The concept of softening into presence is about doing no thing. That's the point. We can't hear from God when we're busy, when we're talking too much, when we're stressed. We don't hear from God when we're trying to make things happen on our timeline. We don't hear from God when we're trying to force our will and our way that sometimes wasn't created from pure Holy Spirit inspired desire. Rather, it was created from these unconscious parts of ourselves that thought that if I make more money, if I have the man, if I have more success, if I have all these material things, then I'll feel good enough. Then I'll feel worthy. Then I'll feel deserving. If I have all of these things outside of myself that I see other people having or doing, then I'll feel like I belong. That's not correct. And when we soften into presence, we can actually hear the guidance that is meant for us in our unique soul paths. We all have a unique soul path. We all have a unique blueprint that has been predestined. You know, that's what I love in the scripture where it talks about Jeremiah. And God was telling Jeremiah, I knew you before you were formed in your mother's womb. I knew you before you were formed in your mother's womb. That means that there was a blueprint, there was a plan, there was a destiny before you even decided what your goals were at the beginning of the year, and what you wanted to manifest, and what you wanted to bring into fruition, and what you want your beloved to do in your relationship, and how you want things to go in your leadership or in your business or the work that you do. There is a destiny, there is a blueprint, there is a roadmap that God has already created. And when we come here, we're agreeing to play this game of, yes, there's desires that we want to co-create with God. And there's also this beautiful part of royal receivership. There have been times I have received things I did not ask for, that I didn't even know to ask for, that I didn't even think to ask for. And yet God blessed me with those things, or experiences, or people. Sometimes our human finite minds cannot even fathom what is available for us. However, when we soften into presence, we can hear. When we soften into presence, we can feel what actually feels true for us. You know, I started talking about relationship goals years ago. I started off as, you know, a lifestyle coach, and then I shifted into self-love and relationship coaching, and then, you know, my work has just grown and evolved and evolved. And I remember and I still believe this concept. I still talk about this concept in my work, but I talked about the importance of creating your own relationship goals, and how this whole trend of hashtag relationship goals had started when the whole social media era was really starting to take off, and people were showing what they wanted people to see in their content, what they wanted people to see with images, what they wanted people to see in the way they represented their relationships online. And a lot of people started comparing themselves and their relationships and their beloveds to what they were seeing. And then they would say things such as hashtag relationship goals. And I started talking about the importance of creating your own relationship goals. And when we're creating our own relationship goals, this is something that requires softening into presence so that we can actually feel and discern and listen to the inner still voice within that is guiding and directing us on what does that even look like. If you're so busy looking at what's going on outside of yourself, what does their relationship look like? What is their beloved doing for them? What's going on over here? You've disconnected. You're not in tune. You can't hear. You can't feel. You can't discern. You don't hear the still small voice within you that's telling you what's correct for you, what's best for you. So when we're softening into presence, it is this remembering that we are not just what we do. We are not just what we have. We are not just the physical experiences that we can see with our two eyes, but that there is an essence that dwells within us. There is an essence within us that is more powerful than what the eyes can see. And when we're softening into presence, we're connecting with that aspect of ourselves, that unseen aspect of ourselves. That is the feminine. The feminine is not these visual representations and these faux femininity replicas of look like this and dress like that and sound like this and do this to get your man to do what you want him to do and do this so that you make more money in your business and sound like this so that you appear more magnetic. That's not the feminine. She is an aspect of ourselves that is to be experienced more than she is to be seen. But she does love to be witnessed and seen, though. Don't get it twisted. So when we are softening into presence, we are connecting with that divine aspect of ourselves. And that is where our wisdom is. That is where we co-create with God. That is where we experience the finer things of life. That is where we create. That is where so much depth of our essence and our being dwells. Not up here in your mind, in your thoughts, in your thinking, in your body, in your vessel. And so when we're softening into presence, we're reconnecting with our body. Just take a moment and notice, is your body clenched right now? Tight. Notice, is your jaw tight? Is your breath shallow? So many people breathe shallow. They don't even breathe a full, deep, nourishing breath through their lungs and their diaphragm, but they just breathe these little pitty-patter, shallow breaths. Notice if there's any tension in your body. Do you feel relaxed? Or do you feel stressed and dysregulated? Tight? And can you hold that softening beyond this moment? Can you hold that softening throughout the day? And can you carry that softening into the next day? This is feminine self-mastery, where we start to make softening a part of our day-to-day life, not just a moment because we're trying to, let me see if I can get a download for my business. Let me see if I can be more radiant so my beloved shows up a certain way in my relationship. Let me see if I can tune in real quick so I can de-stress because I'm stressed right now. It's bigger than that. It's bigger than a quickie. And so many are chasing these feminine embodiment approaches as this quick fix. And that's not what this is. This is a way of being that you take inside of your life, inside of your relationships, inside of your leadership, inside of your work. It ebbs and flows in every room you enter and every encounter you have. And so when you're softening into presence, you are remembering and acknowledging the fact that you're more than the mind. You're more than all the roles that you carry. You're more than your to-do list. You're more than the next task that you have to complete. You're more than what you have. You're more than the physical external things that you see with these eyes. You remember the spiritual eyes? And you carry that softening day in and day out. What I find many modern day high achievers do is they return to this softening when stressed. They return to this softening when overwhelmed. They return to this softening when their cup is feeling a little depleted. They return to this softening when they feel tired. That means you've gone too far. And so softening into presence is a practice. It is something that we practice and we are devoted to. It's not something that we do to get a quick fix or hurry up and get a certain outcome to happen or make things happen or hurry up and de-stress. It is a lifestyle. It is a way of being. It is being devoted to the fullness of who you are. Now, I want to talk about why modern day high achievers may feel challenged with being a royal receiver, meaning you receive effortlessly. You receive without asking. You receive what other people pray for. You receive in real time a thought, and then you have the experience. I want to give an example before I share these three reasons why. I was having a moment yesterday morning. I was sitting in one of my sacred spaces in our home, and I was fully present. I was softened, just present, relaxed, feeling rested, just soft, fully aware of myself and what's happening outside of me. And I'm looking and noticing the mister, and he's getting ready before he leaves for work. And I was feeling this yearning to connect with him. And I didn't say anything. I just felt and noticed, oh, I feel like I want to connect with him. Before I even said a word and expressed it, he walked over to me and gave me a hug and a kiss. In that moment, that's the power of this concept of softening into your presence, where you could literally be thinking of something, feeling something, just being really present with a yearning or a desire, and then receive it. That's royal receivership. Now, why do modern day high achieving women struggle with this? Well, one reason is that you have a need to be in control all the time. And to be a royal receiver, it requires you to return to your original position as co-creator. And to do this, that requires you to release the need to be in control. But because you've been conditioned inside of a masculinized modern society with different messages and programming and paradigms, you have literally you've been conditioned to be a controller. You've been conditioned to want to be in control all the time. But when you are successful, spiritual, feminine being women, we know that we are co-creators. When you return back to your body, stop living in your head so much, and you sit with the reality of who you really are, you remember it's not just me. It's not just me here. It's me and God. I'm not the creator of my reality. I am the co-creator of my reality. The next point is this: being a royal receiver requires you to live a relaxed and rested life. And this means that you are able to stay relaxed and rested even while navigating the voids of your experiences. The void meaning you're in the meantime, as Jan Levenzet used to refer this to, where you're in that space in between where you're not where you once were, but you're not quite where you desire to be yet. You're not quite feeling fully you yet in your life. You're not quite feeling deeply connected to your beloved and feeling that intimacy, that romance, that connection, that pleasure. You're not yet where you know you're meant to be with your leadership and your business of creating that impact and really going to the next level inside of the work that you do. You're not there yet, but you're not where you once were. That void, that meantime. Your ability to remain relaxed and rested is a part of being a royal receiver inside of this state. But you may struggle or have challenges with this when you don't trust. And so this requires trust. This requires trust that God has already preordained timelines. God has already preordained events. God has already preordained people to come inside of your experience to co-create this new reality that you're calling in and praying for. And when you are in this void, in this meantime, there is this movement that is occurring in the unseen realms that you are not always aware of. You have to deepen into the trust of that, which means that you are relaxed and rested because you know I've done my best and I'm letting God do the rest. Now, this third one is one I find that we are constantly having to come back home to as modern day high achievers, as successful spiritual women, is this remembrance that you are a feminine being. However, we live in this masculinized modern world that has conditioned women to look like women and behave like men. And this remembrance that you are a feminine being before all the roles, before all the titles, before all the successes, before all the things that you do and you have, you are a feminine being. This means that it requires you to surrender the masculinized behaviors and messages that you have been conditioned and told were required for your self-actualization, for your safety, for your success. And so this means that you have to detach your inherent worth and value from external metrics, which is what you do and what you have, and start to value who you are more than those external metrics. This is contrary and contradictory to the modern messages we receive right now. Right now, especially with the internet and social media, we are bombarded with messages of how many followers, how many likes, how much money are you making? How many trips did you go on this year? How much are you buying? How much are you doing? How many people did you work with? How many opportunities did you get? How many this? How many that? How much this? How much that? That if you're not softening into presence, you're not being deeply embodied as a royal receiver, you will find yourself into this loop, chasing, striving, toiling. And that's not the way of the royal receiver. She does not toil. She doesn't need to strive. She doesn't need to stress for something. She doesn't need to make things happen. She's a co-creator. She trusts. She does her best and she lets God do the rest. She allows. She surrenders. She lets go of her need to be in control. And she knows that as long as she is practicing her own self-mastery day in and day out, that what she desires on the other side is inevitable. It's inevitable. And so the power of softening into presence is remembering this core truth that what you desire exists for you and that it's inevitable for you to be it and do it and have it and experience it in this lifetime. Because I believe God would not put a desire in our heart that was not meant for us to have. And so my ask of you is to really sit with and ask yourself, have you been embodying being a royal receiver in your life, in your love, in your leadership? Where have you been trying to grasp on to control? Where have you been stressing and not trusting? Where have you been looking like a woman and behaving like a man? And that for some may be very uncomfortable to hear. But my calling is to speak truth, not to coddle. I'm not here to babysit grown adults. I'm here to speak the truth so that you continue on your path of self-actualization as a woman, lover, and leader. And so if I shared something that felt like an ouch, then I invite you to be with that and notice that, because that's where the medicine is. That's where the alchemy begins. And we alchemize to actualize. But many people are trying to bypass this step. They're trying to bypass doing inner growth work. They're trying to bypass who they're being and skip straight into all the doing and the having. But you will have to return to this step if you skip it. And so I invite you to sit with those reflections. And if you are desiring support as you're navigating, embodying all of you inside of your life, your relationship, and your leadership, then I invite you to reach out to me so that I can share ways that I can support you. If you're not a part of my exclusive email community, there is a link in my bio so that you can join. I am sending out some soul activating newsletters to my exclusive email community that you're going to want to be a part of and to read, because I'm sure they're going to deepen this conversation that we had here today. And if you know someone who would find value in this and that this resonated with you, I ask that you share this, and I would appreciate that. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your presence. Thank you for being here. And I'll connect with you very soon. Take care now.